All right, it is Thursday night, and it is late, and it is time for the Thursday Night Live. We're getting rolling. I've had quite a week. Like, quite a week. But we are getting things going now. I am glad to have a little bit of time off to hang out with you guys. And relax a little bit. Although I'm going to say right from the beginning, we're doing a short show this week. Can't be a full-length one. Can't handle it. But we're getting the ball rolling. And we're going to see how everyone's doing. So glad to be here. Glad to be doing the thing. And yeah, here we are. We're doing the thing. And I have wine. I don't know where the wine bottle is. That's funny. Oh, there it is. There it is. Found it. All right. Might be doing some work in the background. I have had a week. Let me tell you, a week. It has been hard. I gotta say, it's been a hard week starting Saturday morning, and it's not over yet. But I'm taking a bit of a break tonight for this, so that we can spend a little bit of time relaxing and refocusing and hanging out as a community. So no one's on yet. Well, some people are on. No one has said hi yet. So we're just chilling. Brian Watson's here. Yo, yo, yo. How's it going, Brian? It's just us, apparently, tonight. But we got some wine. Oh, my dad's here. Hey, Dad. Afternoon. Well, I guess it's 5. Catherine Blanchflower's here. Hey, Catherine. How you doing? So, for those who have not seen my earlier announcement today, we have 3 baby kittens. Babies from our cat, Fritter. Who we've had for a while. We didn't know she was pregnant, but she doesn't live in our house either. She just kind of showed up and we take care of her. So we're giving ourselves a pass on knowing anything about her. We've only just been able to pet her this past week, and the kittens are definitely quite a bit more than a week old. But she has 3 thriving kittens that live in our storm drain, the French drain that runs in front of our garage. So when it rains, they have to come out, which is how we found them. I did hear them meowing the other day, and I was like, I swear that sounds like a kitten. And I went out searching for them and didn't find them. I was like, I thought there was a kitten out here. Someone was like, nah, it's just a cat. I'm like, oh, nope, it was actually the kittens. They're just behind me here. And but there's 3 of them. They all look very healthy and happy. Of course, they should be. We've been feeding the mother extensively. She eats a lot of food and hangs out in our house. She'll just wander through the house sometimes. So that is the interesting thing. We only found them last night. But I was able to go down and sit with them today. And the mother cat, so our cat, Minerva, barely lets me pet her. But this wild cat that lives outside immediately is just like, oh, pet me, you're so awesome, I love attention. She's such a sweet cat. like oh, this should be our house cat. She's awesome. So hey, Desert, how's it going? So just for everybody, I'm doing a very short live stream this week, so we're gonna try to keep it to around 2 hours, which I know is outrageously short. I'm actually gonna write that on the community to do a short one today, just about 2 hours. So much work, can't do a long live. We're on now. Okay. PTO day. Oh, Brian, nice. Wish I had a PTO day. I need it this week. My gosh. Such a week. And I'm working in the background. But it's all good. It's all good. We're getting everything fixed at work. We're getting things figured out. It's exhausting, really exhausting. Um, so it's been quite a week. I had a lot of things I was hoping to work on this week, did not get to because of all kinds of work disasters. Oh, and I need to pay attention because I am covering the shift. It's been such a wild day. I could easily forget that I am on deck right now, as I normally am on Thursdays, but normally I hop into the live stream and nothing's going on, so I don't have to worry about it. Whew, it's warm today. Oh, someone answered for me. Let me see who's working. Why is someone... I have to let the team know. We do a careful check-in, check-out process at the end of the day. And I cover this day, so because we're doing the live stream. So it's funny that I work because I'm doing the live stream, but it works. So it's normally very easy. And normally I take this over into the stream a ways. And... there we go. Did my good evenings. Catherine Blanchflower says, so, husband and I are taking our first trip to Nicaragua in February. Congratulations. We've been following you for a while. Congratulations. I guess to me. Thank you so much for the awesome info. Well, thank you so much, Catherine and hubby. Good to see you guys, or sort of. And thanks for joining the live stream. Awesome to have you here. So what are you doing? What are you coming down for? Is this a vacation? Is this a scouting trip? Is this a potential move? What are you thinking? What's the game plan? Watch all these messages. Oh, my Mexico team is still in the office. Wow. Hopefully they didn't stick around because of me. Meow or meow? They're pretty meow. Pretty chill. Although there is the one that screams. The one that screams is not the one that's out there, Ron. But good memory. Yeah, there was that night that I had a screaming meow just outside this window. This is just the little tiny kittens. Christy is here. Happy to be here with you. Thanks, Christy. Good to have you here. Looking like... so far, it's been a slow day for this other team that I'm covering for. My gosh, I'm so overwhelmed because I've been covering for multiple teams that are not my normal teams. So it's like I'm being thrown into a bunch of other projects, and I have to deal with that. And it's exhausting. Right, gear shifting and not being able to plan, and it's been a lot. So yeah, that's I'm actually kind of frazzled. I'm behind on videos, which just means I don't have extras done. But I haven't been able to step away from my desk, which is part of the exhaustion. Is that I'd really like a moment, to get away, to hang out with the kids, to play with the dogs, and part of the exhaustion is also. Now we showed him last week, and he's right here on the floor. We have the baby dog that we rescued. He's still here and thriving. He's doing really well, and now we've got these 3 kittens and their mother that are living here. They don't really take too much effort, but I do go out and feed them and check on them and stuff. And so there's just more animals to watch over and make sure they don't negatively interact with each other and all kinds of stuff. So that's an additional level of stuff going on. D Fortune says, hola, how's it going, D Fortune? So this is actually not my favorite, but this is a wine from Spain. I'll show you guys. They had a Spanish wine and cheese, or I think there was cheese. There was definitely chips. Hopefully this actually goes into focus because I'm hiding my face from the camera. So this is actually from Spain. I got it for like $9. Organic ecological Tempranillo Rosé from the, I can't even see it. Sustainably grown vineyard. I couldn't read it because it was in English, you see. Yeah. Oh, it's vegan. Vegan wine, just in case you were worried that they put like chicken in there or something. Not sure where it's made, but it's a product of Spain. So Spanish wine, cheese, and chips they had, which they don't normally have, at La Colonia. And of course, we miss our flavors of Spain, having lived there. So I picked them up, and I've been having Spanish wine. And we ate the Spanish chips. It was a nice change of pace, because for those who don't know, Spain just, it's potatoes, salt, and olive oil. That's it. And they make their chips crispier and thinner and crispier than we're used to in North America, more or less. I mean, we would call them kettle chips, and they're not that unheard of, but they're just the 3 ingredients, and they're absolutely delicious in most cases. And the same thing, you can get them in Greece, and I'm sure the other places in between, but having lived there, we would get them quite a bit. And that's something we missed a little bit, so we saw it at the store and picked those up. And now I'm enjoying the bottle of wine. So, yeah, that's where I am. How about you guys? We got 18 people on, but you guys are all very quiet. So if we could get some questions, comments, or something going on, that'd be great. Oh, there we go. Catherine says, sounds yum. Oh, sounds yummy. It is. Thank you. I'm doing some testing in the background while waiting for you guys to have something to talk about. Them's the breaks. What's going on? Dennis Sains. Hello, Scott. I'm moving back to Nicaragua after 45 years in the USA. I'll be visiting some family members in Leon, TGE Cordobas. Hey, very nice. Well, preemptive welcome back. Glad you're able to return. 45 years, that is a long time away. How much have you been back to visit since then? Or is it a regular thing, or is this like your first time back? But I know you're moving back. So very cool. Awesome. It's awesome to see a lot of people returning, finding that there's good reasons to come back these days. Janet says, hey there, I'll be here for a bit. I have a class at 6. Catherine says, lol. Brian says, should I break out the scotch? You should, Brian. Go for the scotch for sure. Why did this fail? That's not right. J Chica, watching before I start my evening shift of work. I know the feeling. I'm broadcasting while doing my evening shift of work. 2 birds with 1 stone, though, so that part's good. You could always take this to work with you and show everyone at work what's going on. So that's perfect. Catherine says, just had a tequila with hubby. We can't wait to go there. I should have had tequila instead of wine. That's the kind of week it's been. I actually really do like tequila and drink it straight all the time. So it's part of my regular rotation. It has a low triglyceride level, so it's a good one to actually drink. If you're going to drink something heavier, it's actually the good one. Dr. J. Macy is here. Hey, everyone. How you doing, Dr. J? May? See? And Catherine says, cheers. Thank you, Catherine. Salud. Ricardo is here. It's good to see you from San Francisco, California. God bless you. Hey, Ricardo, how's it going? Good to see you too. Dr. J says, can you get nice wine there? We can get adequate wine here. Let's not be unreasonable. So right now, like I said, I don't know if you were here earlier. So this is Spanish wine, which is my second favorite after Portuguese wine. I guess Spanish might be my favorite, but right from the Portuguese border. But Spanish and Portuguese is definitely my favorite, and we can get a little bit, but it's hard to get really good wine. I'm sure if you go to a bodega in Managua, you can get a little bit better, but not much. It'll be tough. We can get wines from Italy. I do once in a while pick some up. But by and large, the majority of our wine is Chilean, and then a good portion is Argentinian. But Chilean rules the roost here, and Argentinian comes in second. So if you're good with Southern Cone wines, which are quite good, then you're mostly okay. The majority of the wine here is going to be relatively bargain wine, sold at about $8 to $15. That's where most of it is. We don't have the super cheap wine market like the US or Europe, which is super depressing. And we don't have a large selection. If you were to go to, but we get halfway decent wine just about anywhere. So your normal table wines, this is kind of a Spanish table wine, you can definitely get at Super Express or AMPM. Sounds silly, but they've normally got about a dozen wines, and they're drinkable. Almost all Chilean and a few Argentinian. Spanish you wouldn't expect to find there. And those are generally $8 to $20. They keep a couple of the more expensive ones and no one buys them. You go to La Colonia, which is where I picked this up, and they'll have a maybe half aisle, maybe a little bit less of wine, maybe a third aisle. So there's a decent selection, almost all Chilean and Argentinian, but a few other things. And you can pick up some amount of selection. But if you're a wine connoisseur, it'll be rough, for sure. I love wine, but I'm okay drinking kind of what's available. But I grew up in the wine country, where my dad is now, who's watching. And growing up in the New York wine country in the Finger Lakes, we were so spoiled for amazing wine. And then moving anywhere else, you're just like, oh, you got to live in a wine district. So high on my list is actually to hit Santiago and then do a wine tour from there, because it's right in the heart of the Chilean wine district, and it's only $150 from here. So might need a wine tour. But so yeah, you can get wine, but you're going to pay more than some other markets, and your selection will be low, but there are some good options. Christy says, I haven't booked a stay in Leon for next week yet. Any suggestions? Los Balcones is where I stay if I'm staying in a hotel. I think Al Sole is where you want to stay if you're doing an extended stay kind of thing. It's kind of like a furnished room sort of thing for a little bit longer. Those would be my two go-tos if you're not looking to splurge, right? If you're looking to splurge, of course, something else. But those are quite nice places that I like, and they're not terrible. Ron says, my dad loves Lancer wine. I've not had Lancer wine. Dr. J says, nice. John Blair saw some really cheap European flights from the U.S. at the beginning of the week. Any idea why? Because they're trying to encourage people to go on vacation, would be my guess. I know that from purely watching advertising, I've seen a lot of pushing Americans to go to Europe ads for flights. I don't know if there's like cheap airports or what. What seems to be going on here being used very loosely, is that it seems like Brazil has decided to drop all of their airport taxes and is trying to make Sao Paulo a really large hub. I mean, it's a decent hub now. It's one of the largest cities in the world and a major manufacturing center, but it seems like they're really trying to compete with Miami for being a regional hub and making it so cheap that we can go to Sao Paulo for the same price as going to Miami without some of the overhead issues, the worries, the concerns, the visas and all that. I'm an American, I would need a visa for Brazil, but most people do not. And so some of that seems to be going on. There seems to be a push for some lower cost long haul flights. What's actually driving that? I'm not really sure. I have been wondering that too. I've seen a number, and we're getting the Iberia long haul to Madrid is coming in here. So we're looking forward to that. Hopefully it's going to be cheap. And what's driving that, we're not sure. Other than Spain is obviously exploding. So Spain is the #1 growth location in Europe for economy, and Nicaragua is #1 in the Western Hemisphere. So the two together kind of makes sense, but that's kind of a long shot explanation. Any good places to stay in San Juan del Sur? Just 4 people, then to Leon. So by good places, I assume you mean like nice, fancy hotel, but within reason. Yes, and let me grab a map and show you the place that I like. Actually, Brian knows this place. He actually discovered it. I'll give credit to Brian. I don't know if he discovered it and then told me, or I told him to check it out, and then it was like, yes, it's really good. But it is the same place that, what's their name? There was a really big travel family that does a lot of YouTube stuff. They stayed in this place, and that's not how I know it, though. I mean, obviously I live here, so we tend to know hotels. Now I have to find it. Give me just a second. I went too far for sure. Where's the Pronto? Where is the Pronto? I don't think it's closed. I know a lot of things have, but I tell you, finding anything in San Juan del Sur is just way too hard. Oh, there's the Pronto. There we go. There we go. Okay. I know I act like you guys are seeing it. I know that you're not. No. It's not letting me... All right. For some reason, it doesn't like my screen capture. That's all right. We're going to do a new one. It always freaks out and does something stupid like this when I do this. I have no idea what it's grabbing. Whatever, there we go. I don't know why that works so badly. Okay, so this is San Juan del Sur. Zoom out a little bit, give you a, all right, give you a second to see it, pay attention, make sure you're still here. I'm just gonna read stuff forward. And so we're responding to Catherine Blanche Flowers. Any good places to stay in San Juan del Sur? Just 4 people. And now we're going to zoom in just slightly north of center, right? So this is kind of the edge of the middle right there, just to give you reference. Here's the Pronto. This is a big landmark. Pronto is like a gas station, but this is obviously not a gas station. It's a mini mart as if you was a gas station. And then the place that I recommend is this building here, the Hotel Alcazar. Place is absolutely gorgeous, really good service, really good everything, very comfy, fantastic rooms. Nice balconies. That's not photoshopped. That's not photoshopped either. That's not from the hotel. That's in front of the hotel. This is the real balconies in the room. Notice these are just, well, this one's just a few months old. This is an older picture, but it still pretty much looks like that. Really, really like this place. Now, it's been a little while since I've been there, but it was fantastic, so I recommend it. A little bit pricey, but waterfront San Juan del Sur, it's the only thing like it in the middle of town. You're not going to find real competition to this. in this level. So I highly recommend that. If I'm going to stay in San Juan del Sur, unless I'm like trying out a new place, that's certainly where I would go. It's worth the money, in my opinion. So check them out. Christy says, many thanks. Ricardo says, I prefer Chardonnay from Napa. Not a big Chardonnay or Napa fan in general. I have done Napa wineries. It's fun when I used to work in San Francisco, but not... being a New Yorker, I like the Rhine-style grapes rather than the Bordeaux style that you get in California. Christy says, do South American countries use glyphosates? Is that spelled right? Glyphosates? On their grape crops. I stopped buying California wines because of their use there. I honestly don't know. I also don't know how to pronounce the word. I know what you mean. I don't know if they do or not. Jay Chica says, unfortunately, I can't have wine anymore. Don't have some of my pancreas. Oh, that's awful. I'm so sorry. That's terrible. Like, you really can't have wine. Catherine says, awesome. Brian says, it was Google food. Oh, yes. Brian found this hotel via Google, but he thinks it was Priceline. But it's fantastic. So impressed with that hotel. Marcos is here from my hometown. How you doing, Marcos? Good to see you. Cheers, mate. And Luke is here. Hola, y'all. Just consumed the crazy Jafella order of bacon-wrapped asparagus and 1/3 of Chicago deep dish. That sounds crazy. Bacon-wrapped asparagus. It's a good thing my mother's not here to find out about new asparagus recipes, because I grew up essentially on an asparagus farm. That's not quite true, but we had a huge asparagus garden as a child, and there was so much asparagus. Like, it's mind-blowing how much asparagus we had growing up. And it's I was easily in my 30s before I could really eat asparagus again. Now I like it, but it took a long time for me to like asparagus again. Jay Chica, thank you so much. I always wonder how I can like do a like on those things and it never lets me. I don't know. Catherine says yes. Desiree says Tappy House is a good hostel around $30 a night, safe and clean. Is Tappy House in San Juan del Sur? There's a Tappy House across the street from my place in Las Pinitas. That's why I asked. I have not stayed in either. Oh, he says in San Juan. There, I should read before I ask. Catherine says that looks amazing. It really is. It's as well. It's been a little bit since I've been there, but it is as nice as it looks. Right? Like, these pictures really do represent the general look and feel of this particular hotel. Now, I've stayed in other places in San Juan del Sur that were absolutely garbage, so you do have to be careful. I stayed at a place in. So I stayed at the. Oh my gosh! It will not shut off. There we go. I stayed at the Barrio Cafe back in 2019, which is now gone. That was really nice. I was very happy with that. It was not this fancy, but it was nice. And then Paul and I were back, and we stayed at a hostel there in 2021. It was so bad that we left. We're like, we don't even need our money back. We're gone. We can't sleep here. But I do have the funny story that in the middle of the night, well, not in the middle of the night, early in the morning, 2 parrots flew into my room and were yelling at me in the room. And parrots can mess you up, so you have to be a little bit careful. But I had 2 parrots in the room, which is a little bit funny. Marco says, your great beer video. Oh, thank you. I like that one. It was something a little bit different. Just gave me something to talk about. I was like, this is nice. Get to hang out and have some beers. I was really sad that I couldn't find that last beer. The beer video would have been up a week ago. I spent a week trying to find that last beer. As far as I know, you can't buy them. Marcela found geckos selling it. They wouldn't let her take the bottle away. They're like, no, it's our bottle. She's like, come on. They're like, we'll put it in a cup for you. She's like, that doesn't work. So that's why I didn't get to show it, even though but we think it's not on the market anymore, is our belief. I've never been to this part of the hotel. I didn't realize it was like this. That's really nice. I think I would have put a room there instead of this, but this is, I mean, it's gorgeous. I don't know if it's a good use of the space. Nice place to be able to sit out. They do have a nice pool. The views are fantastic. This is what we miss in Las Pinitas. we don't have, you see my mouse, we don't have like the hill wrapping around, right? We've only got the ocean. So you can have a view like this, but it's never this calm because we don't have the bay. And the sun looks great, but it's just open ocean. And you want this like interest going on to make it really cool. We don't have the boats, we don't have the, so it's beautiful sunsets, but it's just open ocean all the time, which of course is nice. But people complaining about that the ocean isn't good enough for them where they are, but that's kind of the situation. So Luke says, let Luciana know that Robin Hood is fire. Thank you, Luke. I will let her know. She always wants to know if people notice her thumbnails. And she works really hard on them every week. And she did get a commission, which I need to check on, to do them for another channel. So that's pretty cool that she's not making a lot, right? But she's making something doing that. Catherine says, definitely going to check that place out. I would. Well worth it. And hopefully you're not basing out of San Juan del Sur, but you're starting there and then shifting, because people are often like, it's so funny. Half the time people are like, Nicaragua's big, you can't see anything when you really can get around. And then half the time people are like, I can base hours away from where I am, and I can just magically be everywhere in the country, right? And it's like, no, there's a happy medium there where, like, it does take a while to get around. You don't want to be... giving up on seeing the country because you think everything's so far away. So many people go to like one spot and are like, we can get to another, and you're like, yes, just hop on the bus or whatever, zip to another place, not a big deal. But then I've had people who came and are like, oh, we're just gonna, we want to see the country, we want to tour a bunch of things, but we want to be based out of San Juan del Sur. And you're like, okay, but that's 4 hours away for a one-time trip. That's nothing. Like, 4 hours, okay, like, get up at 8, have breakfast, leave by 10, by 2 o'clock you're in your hotel in your next city, no big deal. But if you're like, every morning I have to get up and go 4 hours, see whatever, and then go 4 hours back, that doesn't work. Like, you will be sorry. All right, I am in the process of bringing up videos for somebody in the house. What's going on here? So what have you guys been up to this week, and what do you have going on this weekend? Somebody closed one of my tickets. That's awesome. I don't know why. Not gonna poke the ticket gods. What's that expression? Always let a closed ticket lie. Just got to relay a message here. Go ahead and type stuff up, guys. I will get this. Oh. Sorry about that. All right. Dale says, yeah, the thumbnails are awesome. Glad she's getting to branch out to another channel. Ed from Queens is here. Hey, Scott, Ed here. Hey, Ed. Dale says, gonna try to get downtown for that festival in Central Park this weekend. Cool, me too. Actually, let me know when you're going. Maybe we can coordinate. I can't go for long because so much going on, but I got to film some of it. For those who don't know, Nicaragua has called, I don't know when they called it this, but it was on a thing. Leon is the capital of Catholicism, I assume, in Nicaragua, not like in the world. And they have a huge Catholic Explosion of Saints festival. And a lot of construction has gone on for it, as well as a fashion show, unrelated, going on sometime related quite soon as well. So I'm going to try to get down and show some of that. So hopefully by next week we will have had a video of that. That should be cool. I'm really hoping by the weekend that I'm just doing my backlog of work and not actually in a panic and stuff. I did mention this at the beginning of the show, and I put it into the other notes as well. We're doing a short live stream this week, just about 2 hours, because my week has been one big work disaster after another, and I really need to get some things done and caught up a little bit, and be ready to be able to do the show this week as well. So I just need a bit. So we're about a quarter of the way through a live stream. I know normally I try to do a minimum of 5 hours. I really do, and we almost always make it. Also, we're not doing a live on Thanksgiving. For those who don't know, I would totally do one on Thanksgiving. That's not a problem, but I'm not doing it because Thanksgiving is the day on which my daughter was born, and this is the year where her birthday and American Thanksgiving, line up. So it is her birthday and Thanksgiving. There's no way I'm doing a live stream on that day. So just telling you now, so that's not next week, that's in 2 weeks. I'll try to mention it on the show as well, but for all of you who are here, you won't need to know. Luke says, 3-hour Spanish class tomorrow. Tutor had family stuff to deal with earlier in the week. The street band that I'm sponsoring has practice on Saturday afternoon, so I'll be present for that. Very cool. D. Fortune says, how many monitors? Well, so it depends. At the moment, 3 that would be considered computer monitors. However, under normal circumstances, it's a little bit hard to show so the camera is between my 2 main monitors. So I have a monitor and a monitor right here, and the camera lens is between them, and that's how I work. But I also put a phone here, which I'll just lift up. So that is actually where I get a bunch of my alerts, is there, so that I can be focused on other things. Here. I then traditionally have a laptop here. And I do have a laptop here at the moment, but it's not open. It's like stored there. What I now have over here, and I don't think I can stretch it to be on camera, is my new Raspberry Pi 5 16 gig build with 0.5 terabyte M2 SSD. As far as embedded systems go, it's a powerhouse, and it has a built-in monitor that's this big, for real, and it'll run 2 monitors. At the moment, I need to get one. The other is right there, so I've got a third there. So 2 on my main workstation, plus the phone between them and the camera there, in case you didn't know where you were. And then I've got one up there. So I'm actually doing I've got Rust Rover, the development system, running up there that I can see. And then normally I then have my MacBook sitting over on this side, just to the left of these monitors. So I'm currently set up for 4 monitors, but I'm just waiting for someone to get to a store and get me a 5th one, and I'm going to a 5 monitor setup because I work that much. And I actually need to get more computers because I work that much. But generally, for most things, if I'm focused, I like having 2 monitors in the phone. That's actually really good. But now I'm doing a lot of stuff where I have to have multiple computers to do an awful lot of things. So what I end up doing is having one development environment on my MacBook, and on that I will have it doing something that requires more horsepower because it's my M2, and then this with the 2 big screens, I'll do something that's pretty hefty. That's my M1, my older. Ignore the laptop that's here. I was just installing a game for my daughter. And then the Raspberry Pi, which isn't exactly the fastest thing, but it's quite reasonable. I'm very, very happy with it. And just assembled it. I don't know if it was, I think we assembled it for the last show, and I couldn't show it then either. It's got all LED lights, and it's really cool looking. Maybe I can get it on this show. Hold on, let me see if I can stretch it over here. I'm really worried about these cables yanking it out of my hand or knocking this wine over. I think we're going to be okay. There's no keyboard or mouse on it or anything, so I kind of have a little bit of latitude if I get this cable over this big orange. All right, no, we're good. So this is only 3 cables attached to it. Hopefully you can actually, we'll try to get, there we go. This is it. And it keeps so cool that the inside fan doesn't need to run. And spin it around a little bit. There we go. So it's got 2 cooling fans in the back with LED lights. It's got the CPU cooler, which you don't need. The M2 SSD that you can see great right there. It's got 4 USB in the back, 2 HDMI, Ethernet plugged in. It does have a way to do a camera out of the back, but I don't know. And this little thing right there is a screen. I don't have it set up to do anything. But so this is 16 gig quad core 64-bit ARM. It's really nice. I'm very happy with it. I'm testing it out for some things, and it's my first Raspberry Pi 5. I have 4 or 5 4s from collected over the years. At this point, most of them have disappeared. I think I could track them down. I do have a 400 that I wish I could get or 2 400s, I think. I'd like to get my hands back on those because those are super cool. I have those are only 4 gigs of RAM though, so it's like they're cool, but I have a 8 gig that I still have, and that one is hooked up in the other room. It's hooked up to a TV, so I have it for testing and stuff. I use it for light things. It's mostly for powering a TV in the living room, but it's a 8 gig, a Raspberry 4 with 8 gigs. So it's a pretty powerful machine. It's still dual HDMI. It's still a quad-core 64-bit ARM, but the CPU is more or less half the speed of a 5, and my 5 is 16 gig instead of 8. 8 is lean. 16 is solid, and the 4s don't really have a good way to run SSD, whereas the 5s have an SSD. You just need an adapter, and so from a usability perspective, the 5 is just phenomenal. So I'm running heavyweight JetBrains development environments on the Raspberry Pi 5, partially for testing. The thing that I don't like is like Windsurf that I work with all the time does not run on it, but Cursor and VS Code and all the JetBrains stuff does. So it's just that one thing. Unfortunately, my main product doesn't work there, but I'm able to put Windsurf into JetBrains and use it that way, and that's what I'm doing. So that is what I'm using it for. I'm going to skip Dr. J for a second. D Fortune says, wow, multitasking galore. Christy says, what OS are you using on the Raspberry Pi? So I'm actually just running Raspbian. I thought about putting Ubuntu on, but Raspbian does give you the best performance, and it's still a Raspberry Pi, so overweighting it with Ubuntu is not necessarily the way to go. I am tempted to put Ubuntu on it and see how it does. Obviously, the Raspbian OS is ugly, and Ubuntu is gorgeous. So I'll play around. And I have a second one. So this case that I just showed you, I have 2 of those. I just don't have the internal unit for the other, the motherboard. So I'm going to get that shortly. And I'll definitely have Ubuntu on that and play with that and see how it holds up. Because I use Ubuntu for a ton of other stuff all the time. That's our company's official desktop. Dr. J. Macy says, I'll be in Nicaragua for the first time, congratulations, on December 11th. That is like a month from 2 days ago, so 29 days, I think. So I'm going to travel around and feel the vibe in different areas. That is the thing to do. Absolutely. Perfect. Dale says, if you find out where the fashion show is and where, let me know. That'd be fun to check out. It would. Like, we never do that stuff. That'd be cool. I'm also tempted to put some like video game, like retro gaming stuff on one of these Raspberries just for my kids to play with. I've got a cool project that I'm working on that the Raspberry Pis are for, so I'll let you guys know when it's a little bit more fleshed out. I am hoping, because they just released it, to get the new Orange Pi 6, which is, so this is a 4-core 16 gig unit. The new Orange Pi 6 is a 12-core 52 teraflop, 32 gig dual M2 SSD system. So it's like 3 times the CPU horsepower of this, twice the RAM, twice the storage, twice the I/O, with dual 5 gig or dual 10 gig Ethernet adapters as opposed to one single gig. Like, it's impressive. It's also $100 more than this one. So yeah, that's quite a lot more. But holy cow, that is a powerful machine. And with 32 gigs of RAM and something like 2/3 of its horsepower is for the NPU, you can run like large models on it, which is not something you can do with a lot of things. Like run them and have them actually work. I'm just checking on a little dog there. So yeah. All right, you guys are quiet. I'm just going to check in on my little project here. It'd be awesome if my project got far enough during the show to be able to tell you about it, but I don't anticipate that. I did actually make new software this week that I will, in the next week, be in a position to tell you guys about. Well, actually, if you guys don't mind not having the screenshots, you can see the placeholder for what's coming up, but this gives you an idea of what I built this week. Literally built this in one day, and it's fully production ready. Like, we've got people deploying it now, customers deploying it now, because we built it because someone needed it. So if anyone wonders what I do on the side, that's what I do. I have so many windows open. Oh. Oh. Nick Alberto. Hey, Scott. Hope all is well. Rowdy. all is well. It rowdy. We are here in Akatal having a great time. Oh, awesome. That's so cool that you're in Akatal. I really need to get up there. It's such a drive. I just never have free time to go anywhere. Vice Chancellor asks, what kind of vehicle do you drive? A Toyota Hilux? No. I really don't want a Hilux. So we've had a number over the years, but currently we have a Chery Tiggo 7 Hybrid. So kind of a luxury SUV hybrid. So we get better gas mileage, got the big sunroof, automatic, which is not my desire, but living in Nicaragua, there isn't much use case for normal people to have something like a Hilux. One, it really makes you stand out. The Hilux especially is the show-off car. So some people really need them, obviously, because you work on a farm. But for foreigners, when you have a Hilux, it doesn't give the best impression because they're expensive and impractical. So it's kind of I can afford whatever kind of thing, which we try to avoid. Plus, it is kind of impractical, so it wouldn't make a lot of sense for us. They are very rugged. I like Toyotas, but if you want a Toyota Land Cruiser, is even more expensive. Of course, if you get an old beat-up Hilux, it's a little bit different. But being an expat and not being a farmer, there's once in a while, it's like, it'd be kind of nice to have a pickup, but for the most part, that's not very useful. You want to keep things out of the rain. You don't want to stand out as showing off or anything like that. It's just not conducive to what you want to do most of the time. So I think a lot of expats find them to not be very useful vehicles. Now, if you live in someplace like Tesoro, you got to have a 4x4. Like, you have to if you're going to live out there. So totally understand why people are getting those kinds of vehicles out there. They might as well be farmers, right? They're out there. But I live in the city. I go between cities. I'm never really off-roading it on adventures, and on the rare occasion that I am, I've never needed a truck. If I had to do it every day, yeah. But they look better than the Tundra to me. Can you buy a Corvette there? So they basically are the Tundra. They may be slightly better, but they are the Tundra Toyota replacement in this market, or vice versa. So not that the Tundra is a bad one, but the Land Cruiser is definitely the more reliable, more robust vehicle here most of the time. Can you buy a Corvette here? You're totally allowed to buy a Corvette. I've seen a Corvette. Can you walk into the Corvette showroom and get one? No. Can you specialty order one from Chevy? Yes. Can you import your own? Yes. Should you? No. You're not going to be able to go anywhere. You couldn't make it to my house. You couldn't make it through the middle of town. You can't get down, you won't be able to get anywhere. I can't imagine how awful it is to drive such a low vehicle. So on one hand, something like a Tundra is overkill. Unless you're going to some specific spots, very rarely do you need that much clearance, or a pickup as an expat. Of course, someone does. I'm just saying, by and large, there's this kind of American trend to buy really large vehicles that are anything but practical, because it's just Americans use big vehicles with cheap gas. Here, gas is expensive, and as Tim just said, parking and streets are narrow. So having a large vehicle is generally a negative. Even my little Chinese SUV is way too big for a lot of things conveniently. And but you do need some clearance, because we have tremendous road bumps and a lot of cobblestones, right? So something like a Corvette would get torn apart on these streets. I'm a car guy. I would love to have a Corvette or something similar, right? And if you're up in like Guatemala, you can kind of get away with that. But down here, having one is the ultimate in standing out, which we generally recommend against, just for whatever reason, right? Unless you are a government official and really have nothing to worry about being absolutely identifiable at all times without any option to hide, avoid vehicles that really make you stand out. That is a reference to the Corvette. The Hilux is not like that. It just makes you stand out more than a normal, more practical vehicle. But certainly there's tons of Hiluxes, whatever you call them, in plural here. Tim says, yeah, you need a smaller vehicle to park easy and to get through the narrow streets. From a day-to-day driving perspective, things like hatchbacks with extra clearance, they're kind of the best. You get over, as long as you can clear the speed bumps that are quite literally everywhere, then you want small and low power with really, really gas efficient for most people, because that's what affects your life, and it just makes parking easy. It keeps you off of people's radar. You're not a target. You're if you have a Corvette, for example, it's not just, oh, the police are likely to stop you 10 times as often as something else because they're bored and they see a Corvette and they've never seen one before, so they're going to stop you just to see your car. But also, every single person in town will be able to relay where they've seen you during that day, and your life will never be a secret. People will track you naturally because you're so identifiable. Lance says, I have no experience whatsoever with all the Chinese motorcycles available here. What is recommended make and reliability costs of ownership? That I really don't know. I can ride bikes, but I'm not a bike expert by any stretch whatsoever. I really don't know which ones are good and which ones are better or worse of them. There are some decent cheap ones that, oh, excuse me, I know lots of people who get and are very happy with them. They're like, they may not be like, this is the greatest vehicle. They're like, I paid $1,000 and I have a completely adequate motorcycle. And they're pretty happy about that. So they're definitely out there like that. Oh, the little puppy's just playing. He's being so sweet, rolling around on his belly. Or rolling around on his back, I should say. Wanting his belly pet, but he's way over there. And you're a good dog, too. The big one's over there on her bed. Anyway, Luke says that vet looks great in the garage. Vice Chancellor says, is the speed limit still 30 miles per hour? No one knows. So a lot of people say yes. We've seen nothing to say it's rescinded, but it says 80 on the signs, as Luke said. However, the law says what the police put out overrides the signs. So the police put something out that says 50, but no one's doing 50. But some people report that they've been held to 50. We don't know. That's kilometers. So honestly, what is it? We don't know. When you drive out on the highway, they've kept the signs up to say 80. But in theory, we're in a temporary test of 50. Tim says, some of my local friends like the Genesis motos. I know some people who have them and seem to be happy with them, so that sounds like what I've seen, but I've seen very little to really give an opinion. Yes, it's a weird situation, and no one's really driving 50, but people are being very cautious compared to what they used to. This little dog's so much bigger. He was so tiny when we got him a week and a half ago. And now he's big enough that he's wandering around the yard and stuff. And he's a goofy little boy. You're a goofy little boy. He's very sweet. He's very sweet. Do. Yeah, we're definitely unhappy about the super slow speeds. It really impacts. I mean, I'm happy that there's a lot fewer accidents, I would assume, or the ones that there are, because accidents are a big problem here, right? So, okay. So we got all of our Christmas decorations out, but my daughter's like, but my birthday is on Thanksgiving. You can't put up Christmas decorations before my birthday. So we have all of our Christmas decorations ready to do it at the Nicaraguan time, which is the first week of November. But my daughter, whose birthday it is like, no. So we are waiting on that. But we're ready for when the time comes. That is, I mean, I'm kind of the same, like, are we really decorating before American Thanksgiving? Like, come on. Seems like we're pushing it. But I was at a funeral this week, and you could see in their house, all their Christmas decorations were up. They were ready to go. Like, I guess. It's what they do here. And all the Nicaraguans I talked to, like, oh yeah, once it's November, you decorate for Christmas. But they don't listen to Christmas music anywhere near like Americans do. They just decorate for it. So they spend 1/6 of their year decorated for Christmas. They also celebrate it longer. Nick Alberto, I bought a brand new Genesis bike in Esteli 250 model. I've been riding the dirt bike everywhere, and in Nicaragua, I went all the way to Mura. Wow, nice. Nicaragua is the best for riding. Lance says, with use of Waze, speeding continues at 80 or more. Also heard a rumor that the police or government may ban Waze in country. There's always rumors like that. How would they ban it in country is really the question. Could they? In theory, but it would be very difficult. Dale says the Uka bus from Managua would do 80 in stretches, then get a hand signal from an approaching driver and slow down to 50, and they pass police. Yeah, that could be. They used to do 140, to give you an idea. So it feels like they've slowed down. It seems like it takes longer to get to Managua. I doubt that they're going to ban Waze just because the infrastructure necessary to ban an app is very difficult, especially when it's like a Google app, and especially when it's the one that works best. They already have the problem that there's not very good maps and stuff, but it's possible. I mean, I'm not ruling it out. That's not one of those like crazy no, that could never happen. Now it could. Because it is used, I mean, everyone knows the only purpose for Waze is to break the law. So that the government would be like, yeah, you gotta stop using that, isn't completely wild or unprecedented. But it does feel still unlikely. But it does make me like taking the Uka bus, so I don't have to worry about it. Dale says it was certainly not like riding the bus in Jamaica. Those were white-knuckled occasions. It used to be like this here. The older buses, when they went super fast and the buses were old. Nick Alberto, I got stopped by police today. When I told them I was from the U.S., they just let me go and gave me a handshake. That's often the case. I have never really gotten a ticket here. It's very rare to get pulled over and get a ticket. Waze is more reliable than Google Maps for driving. Google Maps was sending me down one-way streets. Yeah, that's the weird thing, is that Google and Waze are, one, the same company, and two, presumably pulling the same source of data, and yet they have different data. It's super weird. Oh, Luke says Spirit has flight availability posted again for January and February. That's awesome. Still sucks for me because I can't use Spirit anymore. But John says, hey, could you speak on the water quality in Nicaragua and how it compares to other Latin American countries, specifically Panama? Thanks. Honestly, I think it's about the same as Panama. So I lived in Panama, our water was fine. Lived in Nicaragua, our water's fine. Mostly our water is drinkable here. It tends to be a little bit dirty, but not like unhealthy. So, well, depending on your definition, but, filtering it is generally, good and easy. We're not talking about like expensive filtering. We're talking about like clay pot filtering. A lot of people do that. It's very popular. But the water's all drinkable here. We're not Mexico. So, so Mexico has bad water. The rest of Latin America you can drink. There's always some place you can't, but there's some places in the U.S. you can't too. Mississippi in general, and Flint, Michigan. There's nothing you should do in Mississippi. I wouldn't eat the food either. Just kidding, kind of. But it's unique or unusual in the U.S. to have bad water, but it can happen. Same thing in Latin America. Isolated communities, you can find bad water, but by and large, it's not a thing that you have to worry about throughout the region. If you're living here full time, then having something like the water filtration options like the clay pots is smart, just because you're drinking the same water every day and it's trivial to treat, so why not? But most of us do drink bottled water, but that's more of a cultural thing than anything else. Where I live, we're on well, and the well is not treated, so we drink bottled because the well's a little bit iffy, but like showering and stuff, it's fine. Luke says, not just the red-eye flights. Tim says, I have a Spirit flight booked in late December. My wife should have one booked in early December. Dale says, tap water here is great. Haven't gotten around to getting a clay pot filter yet. Yeah, honestly, neither have I. But I do plan to get one. John says, wait, I'm in Mississippi. Luke says, biofiltro, made in Nicaragua. Dale says, only problem I've had is that the water was off the majority of the last 2 days. That's the advantage where we are. We've never had it off. But totally know what it's like, is when we lived in Laborio, from time to time it would be off. But really it wasn't very much. El Viaje Plena says, clay filter is great after waiting 2 weeks for setup. I'm glad you got it set up. I am really tired this week, guys. Sorry. It's been a week. Landlady, this is Dale, said that it was the whole neighborhood, and that Kyle was working on the pipes apparently. Oh, that happens. We had the water main broke over here in Sutiava. That would not be the one affecting you, but it affected a lot of people last week when it blew. Took the whole street apart. It was pretty crazy. We are. How far in are we? We're over an hour in. Just a reminder that we're just doing a 2-hour live stream this week, so if you have any questions, jump in there. Not that I don't want to hang out, but I really need some quiet time to get some work done. So, oh, Dale says, yeah, I saw that video. It was crazy. Apparently, it was one of the old PVC mains. So I don't have all the history, but it's like at some point long ago, they realized they had some old metal pipes down there that they had to replace, and they needed to replace them right away, and this was back when the country was much poorer. And so they just quickly put in PVC, which works, and it's safe. It just doesn't last well. And it kind of blew, and the whole street basically blew up. John says, not to be political, but when there is an inevitable change in leadership within the family, do you expect any significant change in policies? No, not really. I mean, will there be changes? Yeah, we expect something, as with any change of political figures, but one, no one's anticipating a significant change of government. I don't know who people expect is going to change to. And could it change? Of course it could. But is it likely to? Doesn't seem likely. our president now, she has very clear policy making decisions that have been pretty consistent for a really long time. And, on the ground, it feels like her popularity is very, very high. So to see a change of that at this time, not very likely. Same as any country, right? You expect some amount of change. Nothing as dramatic as the U.S. would we anticipate, of course. And the obvious contenders for the presidency, maybe 10 or 12 years down the line, I guess it'd be 10 or 15 based on the cycle, are not people that we feel have dramatically different policy ideas necessarily. So it seems unlikely that we'll see dramatic change from a political perspective. Could happen, obviously. Also, I think that there's a very misleading external view of, for some reason, coming from the U.S., people think of presidencies as dictatorships. Partially because the U.S. doesn't have checks and balances the way that other presidencies tend to. So a lot of places don't recognize the U.S. as a presidential republic. For example, the EU doesn't. It doesn't meet their democratic guidelines for a country. And so the U.S. perspective of having a president, the president typically carries an absolutely absurd amount of power. Not just influence, but actual power. Outside of the U.S., pretty typically, a presidential system, for the most part, tends to be maybe a lot of influence, but a lot less power. And so I think, given that here there are lawmakers, the United States doesn't have lawmakers. We use that term as a marketing term, but Congress does not set the laws. They give a recommendation of laws to the courts, but the courts are under no obligation to honor them. The Constitution, the Supreme Court said outright they're under no obligation to read the Constitution. They don't need to. Coming from an American perspective, we tend to worry about a change of president in a way that is reasonable and could carry a lot of influence. But I think, given that we have an actually independent judiciary, and we have the rule of law, right? So in Nicaragua, there are lawmakers, known as the National Assembly in Spanish, but National Assembly. They write the laws. Those laws, once ratified, I don't know the term, but ratified, must be followed by the courts. The courts do not get to throw them out and say, well, we appreciate you writing this law, and we appreciate people voting on the people to write this law, but we, the non-elected officials, say no, and that's the end of it. No, that's an American thing. I know of no country on earth that has such a disconnect between the people and the laws, and the people that are supposed to be the lawmakers and the laws. But here, you actually have a lawmaking body, the National Assembly, who makes laws that the judiciary must follow. So unlike the U.S., where a judiciary decides what is law, here the judiciary decides if you broke the law, which is a very different thing. And so because you have a lawmaking body that is in charge of those things, you have this real mediating force on concerns about a change of government. And it makes me wonder, given the unbelievable stability of the Nicaraguan system in comparison to everyone else in the region for the most part, what makes people bring it up? I've never heard someone have similar concerns about any other country. And I don't know of any country in the region that is more stable. Even places like Panama and Guatemala have more variation in government than Nicaragua over the decades. And so I find it a really interesting point of what makes it even occur to someone to be worried about Nicaragua in that way, it's kind of like saying, so I'm moving to the United States. I'm worried about the lack of Grand Canyons. Okay, but they have the most Grand Canyons. One, but they're the only one. Wherever you're coming from must have less. 0. Right? So I get that maybe you feel the need for 2, and no one can provide that, and you're out of luck. But coming from, by necessity, some place with fewer and going to a place with more, it feels like an odd requirement. It's kind of like the people who say, can I afford to live in Nicaragua? And I'm like, well, if you can afford to live anywhere, you can afford to live in Nicaragua. How are you living today? It'll be better than that. Right? I can't tell you what your budget is, and I can't tell you how you're going to like living on the budget. But what I can tell you is, as a ratio, how much better it is financially than where you are now, depending on where that is. So I always find that a weird question. Like, well, I don't know. What do you have? $80 a month? No, you probably can't survive. But how are you going to survive somewhere else? I'm afraid you're just going to starve. And so in this region, given that basically everywhere is less stable, less consistent politically, it's an interesting thing to be concerned about here, right? Due to the incredible consistency of Nicaragua, I'm now concerned about its inconsistency. That we'd be concerned about inconsistency anywhere, sure. But this is the last place to be concerned about it, in my opinion. Dale says, have they fixed that street yet? They have, yes. That's the main route of El Centro, where everyone turns to get onto the two-way part of Ruben Dario. That is correct. That is where it is. El Viaja Plena, is Bryce still alive and in Nicaragua? He has a stomach flu today, but yes, he is here, and I don't know where, somewhere in the country. He's banned from all the groups except for the Esteli group. Viajero del Mundo, think about yesterday's video. What parts of Nicaragua do the indigenous people group have influence over? It's not so much that they have influence over. I think that's the wrong way to put it, kind of. They might have influence anywhere. So I live in an indigenous community here in Sutiava, but it's a very loose influence. You'd be like, oh. On the beach, there's a very small strip along the beach that is all lease from the indigenous, and it's more than 50 meters, but I don't know if it's 100 meters. I know it's not 200 meters on the beach. So I'm not exactly sure where the limit is, but it's, if you're like, hey, if I cast my line really hard, I might make it into the water, it's probably indigenous. If you're like a professional baseball pitcher and you could throw a baseball into the water, that's, I don't know how far that is. That feels like about where it is. 3 to 4 buildings deep, more or less, from the water. As a very rough guide. If you were actually buying, you'd want to measure and know exactly and question. And every community might be slightly different. So be aware, right, that it may not be consistent. But definitely where we are, I just bought 2 lots off beach. So there's okay, here's the water, here's the beach line, and then there's the first row of houses. That's definitely indigenous. Then there's a road, then there's a row of houses. Apparently that's indigenous. Then there's another road up here, but before that road is another row of houses. I bought in that. So not the beach, not the first off beach, the second off beach. And buying there, we're in the indigenous zone. But I own 5 off beach, and it's not in the indigenous zone. So somewhere between the 3rd and the 5th house is where the break is. I don't know if the people we face on the other side of the street are in the indigenous zone or not. So that's where it gets a little bit tough. But that's how we do it. Tim says, I've been coming to Nicaragua for 25 years, 1/4 of a century. I have lived here for 15 months. I have seen a lot of progress in infrastructure, and I see a lot of people employed. That's a lot of construction. It is, and it's awesome. Employment, I don't know how much that has improved over the last, say, 5 years. It feels better, but it's very hard to say. It still remains the big problem, of course, but it feels like positive direction. But I don't know if it's like 1% better, 10% better. I really don't know. I'm not sure that's something they release or not. But having lived in and out and worked here, right? So I've been an investor here. I moved here 10 years ago and invested shortly after that, but I left when I invested, so I didn't actually overlap. And so I'm almost 10 years as an investor, and I can tell you it feels so different. Solid power, solid internet. Things are just so easy to deal with. Like, there's still challenges. I'm not saying there's none, but having offices here, doing work here, is very, very different. Gotta track down a ticket. TJ says, hey, Scott and everyone. Hi, TJ. In case, well, for everyone, but TJ wasn't here. We're doing a short one this week, just about 2 hours. So we got about 45 minutes left, I think. I've just had a terrible work week, and I need to work all evening. So we're not going to do a long live stream. And we're not doing one on Thanksgiving. So next week, I'm hoping to do a full length. I'll try to even do a longer than usual, if at all possible. Hold on, let me... lost track of where I was. But anyway, going for a 2-hour short one this week, and nothing on Thanksgiving. Well, that's a problem. Luke says, round trip, Managua to Fort Lauderdale, February to March. First class for 646 flight out at 4 p.m., return at 4 p.m. Very nice. That would be Spirit. Managua to Fort Lauderdale. Brian says, can we talk about the IDF soldiers vacationing in Nicaragua? I mean, we can. TJ says, work, what's that? So IDF soldiers, for those who don't know, IDF has a tradition of, one, it's mandatory military service, right? They're drafted, they're conscripted soldiers. And I don't know exactly the service years, but it's something like 18 to 21, something like that. And basically, they don't get to do anything fun during that time, as you can imagine. When it's done, there is a tradition, a long-standing tradition, with the IDF to come to Central America and backpack. Of course, they're allowed to do what they want to do, but there's this really big trend of doing that. So living here, thanks, Luke. I'm like, I did get it eventually, conscripted. There's this very big tradition of coming to this region because it's affordable, because it's really different. I really don't know what I've talked to maybe 4 years ago, some IDF guys I was on a bus with for 20 hours with maybe 8 or 10 IDF guys, and so I heard a lot about it. And it's just a thing. They come, they do the backpacking trail through Central America. Part of it is they're young, they don't have a lot of money, they're exhausted from having been conscripted for a number of years, and you put it together, and there's just this, you're going to run into them. And I was on, so for Brian, I've been here for 4 years. I'm sorry, I've been here for 5 years. 4 years ago, I saw them with regularity. Since then, I've rarely seen them, but I was maybe 2 weeks ago on a bus, and there was a kerfuffle on the bus, not a big thing, but a little bit, and some people were ejected from the bus, and they were outside yelling, and then we realized they were IDF from them yelling, and then you recognize the right age, the right equipment, and you're like, that makes sense. That's a big backpacking source. I think the reason that you're seeing them, and this is purely a guess now, is that there was a time period when it was popular. Then it became very difficult because their conscriptions ran longer than they traditionally did because they weren't just training, they were actually at war. And then you have a lot of people who were in combat or deployed for a number of years in active combat roles that are now being released finally, and they're anxious to get out and get back to those traditions. I think that the number going out is probably very high. I think the number avoiding Nicaragua is probably quite high because Nicaragua is definitely not going out of its way to be advertising to them. But most are passing through either from Panama or Costa Rica heading north, or from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador heading south. I don't think a lot tend to stay in Nicaragua, but they pass through, and it's a safe country. So even though I would assume in general they don't feel incredibly welcome, given that they verge on open hostilities with Nicaragua, but it's also not a place that they actually have to worry about, and most Nicaraguans aren't going to be able to identify them, so it doesn't really cause any problems in that way. Unless you have a further question about it, that's what I know about them. So I assume we're seeing an uptick because suddenly they're able to vacation again. But if you've only been looking at it over the last few years and are like, well, I've never really noticed any, and now I notice a lot, that's why. Their tradition of coming to the region and going on vacation was taken away from them. And now what I think you're seeing is people who are not 21, but people who are 23, 24, who are coming and trying to do the traditional vacations that they've been looking forward to for a long time and have not been able to do. But I think quite a few are avoiding it for obvious reasons that the world events have made them not the necessarily warmly welcomed travelers that they would have been before. Because of the mandatory conscription, it takes very little to be able to identify someone and know what their role has been, right? If you were to look at, say 5 years ago 4 years ago when I was riding the bus with IDF, it's like, could have been a medic, could have been any number of things, and the chances that any of them saw anything more than, maybe a scary patrol or, pretty minor stuff, right? That's all you would expect at most people to have seen. Mostly they're just, went through basic training and were kind of like advanced reservists for a few years. That's what we're used to seeing, so it didn't imply anything. People who are now coming out of the IDF and going around the world, everybody knows what they were involved in. And so if you're in a place where they take exception to that, you can't really hide very easily, and very few of them speak a lot of other languages or in such a way that they aren't identifiable. So it is a group that tends to be highly identifiable when traveling. So if you're aware of this backpacking tradition, generally you'll notice, which I'm assuming is why you noticed, because otherwise, if you weren't aware of these things, how did you figure out that they were IDF, right? So I'm assuming you have kind of a similar knowledge base that this is a thing that they do, and then that's why you're maybe seeing them. But I still don't see many, very few. I've maybe seen 2 in the last few years, and I own hotels. 4 or 5 years ago, we would see IDF in the hotels with, I mean, not regularity, but if you said over the last 3 months, has there been anybody? You'd be like, I think there was. And now if you said over the last 4 years, has there been anybody? I'd be like, no, I don't think so. Brian says, I just wondered if Nicaragua had a closed lip but open invitation to IDF, or it was just a coincidence. I mean, it's kind of, right, they're not, how do I put this? They're not considered the same as Americans, right? If you were going to take an exception to IDF, you kind of got to take an exception to all Americans as well. And so, try to be delicate. The IDF has one role on the world stage, one to which Nicaragua is very much opposed. However, Nicaragua has a much more tangible negative relationship with the United States. A very large reason that Nicaragua is so opposed to the IDF is because of their experience with the U.S., and they see the IDF's actions, whether real or not, to be reflective of America's colonial past and its treatment of Nicaragua over the years. So Nicaragua sees a solidarity in that situation, and that plays a very large role with the entire thing. So on one hand, the one event with the IDF is very prescient, very dramatic, and Nicaragua is taking a very vocal stage on that. But on the other hand, Nicaragua's relationship with the United States is very deep and very profound and long held and very active. The IDF is not doing anything to Nicaragua. Well, that's not actually true, but it's doing very little to Nicaragua, and did have a good relationship in the past that has soured. Whereas the United States really never had a good relationship with Nicaragua. It still has soured, but it came from a more negative position, and is much more relevant. Let's put it that way. So if Nicaragua was going to treat individuals as being reflective of the government that they are controlled by, then you would expect Americans to get roughly an equal or possibly worse treatment. And we don't see that. And so we don't expect that. And this is something I've talked a bit about, that Nicaraguan culture, and many of the cultures in the region, Latin America as a whole, is very good, on average, about seeing people as people and not slices of their country, right? Meaning, Nicaragua looks at me as Scott and says, Scott has done or not done these things. Scott participates and doesn't participate in these things. Scott says and doesn't say these things. This is who Scott is. And they don't look at my passport and say Scott as 1/330 millionth of the United States represents this percentage, tiny percentage, of that pie, and this is what America says. They don't look at it that way. Americans have some amount of tendency, certainly not completely, to look at the world as the opposite. A Nicaraguan or a Venezuelan comes to the United States. There's a trend on the street level and by government to view that person as some kind of ambassador of their country or reflective of the opinions of their country. And so if Nicaragua decides that, corn is being wiped out, we're no longer going to eat corn, we're making corn illegal, then America would tend to see someone coming from Nicaragua, even a refugee who's like, I'm addicted to corn, I can't live there any longer. They would still feel that they represent this decline of corn. Whereas an American who, United States outlaws all drinks except for bourbon. The only thing that's allowed is bourbon, the real American whiskey, right? And then if you come to Nicaragua, they would be seen as, oh, you're very anti-rum. No. My country's anti-rum. I love rum. That's why I'm here. No, you come from a anti-rum country, right? Like, weird. And so this is one of those things I think Nicaragua gets much better. It's not a Nicaraguan thing, right? It's a giant Latin American thing versus North America. But So because of that, we as Americans are treated very well here until we individually do something wrong, right? If I go rob a store, yeah, they're going to be upset with me, but they're not going to be extra upset because I'm an American. They might be extra upset that I'm a foreigner, but not that I'm an American foreigner, just that I'm a foreigner. And so yes, there's for IDF tourists here, they are just as open and welcome as they have always been. I don't think Nicaragua is going out and making a point of inviting them and advertising to them, and I don't think that they're making a point of coming to Nicaragua. Everyone I've ever known and spoken to and observed see Nicaragua as part of the trail that they're traveling through, and it's one of many destinations. They may be very interested in it. They may be passing through as quickly as possible. It seemed to be a little bit neutral, like it's just part of this overall. They're coming from how far away they are. I think they see the region is very much like it's Central America, and to give them credit, we see it to that degree as well a little bit. We being Nicaragua in this case, right? So it's not an unfair treatment of the region from afar. Now, if they're lumping Panama into that, yeah, that's a little bit unfair to Panama, but you know that's what Panama gets for being so small. So that's kind of mine. Brent says, nice flaming arrow archer cat. That's the Robin Hood thing. Thank you. My daughter will be very excited that multiple people have mentioned it this week. Diego says, hello, Viaja Plena. They got banned in Indonesia. I'm sure a lot of places banned them, which is, to put personal opinion into it, I get countries wanting to ban. I hate treating individuals as actors of a group, but there's also the you don't have to in their case because people had the option of leaving. In most cases, they are not actually prisoners. Normally, they did have the option of fleeing, and they did have the option of coming here and seeking asylum, for example, which would be expected if someone was drafted into the IDF, conscripted, and felt that they could not serve for moral reasons. Claiming asylum in Nicaragua would have been an option, right? That I believe would have been honored. That's my opinion. But so that creates a foundation of, you can look at these things and say, well, yes, a group of people did things, but each individual chose to remain a part of that group. We're getting into a very difficult discussion of personal knowledge and trying to read that situation from afar, right? How trapped is someone? How much information did they have? How much pressure did they have? How surprised were they? Some people entered the service after things had started, but some people were already there. Were they fearful for their own lives, that if they left, they would be killed, hunted down, and killed abroad? I don't know, right? And it doesn't matter if that's a real threat. It only matters that they're fearful of it being a threat. There's a lot of things to take into account. So I see Indonesia's point on that. And Indonesia being an Arab country, that is incredibly wrong. Indonesia being an Islamic country, it doesn't really make any difference because the IDF equally acted against Islamic and Christian targets, and Nicaragua being a León just being announced as the capital of Catholicism, whatever that means, equally takes a religious persecution perspective from that. So how that plays out with individuals, right? It's a difficult discussion, but I understand Indonesia's position on it. I also think Indonesia is probably like banning 5 people, whereas in this region they would be banning thousands, but maybe that's not the case, but that's how I imagine the numbers work out. It's like at some point, Mongolia can take as dramatic as a stand as they want and no one will actually notice, even if they do something really dramatic. Diego says, I was at the Feria Ganadera, so many new Chinese brands. Oh yes, that's it's like a car show. I really wanted to go, but my week has been just awful. I am going to try to hit the festival here in León this weekend, but Yeah, there's so many Chinese car brands now in Nicaragua. It's pretty cool. We have so much more selection than other places. Where did the announcement about Leon come from? The Vatican? No, I'm pretty sure it came from Managua. We're all like, who called it this? But that's the name on something, so it's interesting. But I want to go out and check it out. But definitely funny that they decide. We're like, are we? Like, is this? I mean, so it is somewhat reasonable that that Leon is seen that way, because we are the home of the basilica, right? We have the largest church in the country. We have the most famous one. We have the basilica, not just a cathedral. So that's a vote in our favor for sure. Who else would be the capital? I suppose Granada could be, but they have smaller churches, just as many, but they're a smaller city, smaller churches. They don't have the basilica. They do have a cathedral. Managua, of course, has the old not burned down, but fallen down cathedral, plus it has the modern cathedral. But I think on a per capita basis, I don't think they compete with us at all. My dad says, calling it a night. Don't forget to hit the like button. Love to the family. Thanks, Dad. Love you. And don't forget, we have the new dogs and cats. So much going on here. So much going on. Sleepy little dog right there by my side. So we'll see. I'll gather what I can from the Home of Catholicism event to see. There's a rodeo one of these days, I assume in Managua. Although I think we have the Ipico coming up. I don't know when it is here in Leon. My entire family is heading to Coco Colala without me. Are you guys taking the kids or just the adults?
No, the kids.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Everyone is going. Everyone but me. A little bit behind. Rodeo. Brian says it snowed here already. What's the temperature in Leon? The temperature in Leon is always the same. I'm just looking at it. So our high of the day, so actually it was a cool day. High of the day was 30 and it's currently 26. Tonight we'll have a low of 22, which is bordering on chilly. Living abroad with Eric. I want to see you smash those 5 beers for your recent beer video. Yeah, I don't do that. I pretty much don't do that anymore. I used to be quite the drinker when I needed to be. I was never like an everyday drinker, but I used to really put them down. Now I'll polish off a bottle of wine. Although honestly, well, by the end of tonight, this will be gone. But this is what I'm putting down right now. I'm maybe once this is gone, about a third of the bottle at best. I mean, I could put down 5 beers. That's not that bad. Dale says, yeah, someone posted about the Ipico on the Leon chat. Oh, cool. I've been kind of out of it the last 2 or 3 days. Dale, you should do the Ipico. Actually, you should go with us when we do the Ipico. I'll film and stuff. Hopefully I can do it. It's a lot of fun. It really is a unique show. And then we'll have the rodeo there. Sorry, I'm from New York. It's hard to get the rodeo out of the thing. Graduate Gemologist is here. Buenas noches. Speaking of the beer video, that was Graduate Gemologist in the beer video with me. Tim says 68 degrees in the mountains outside of Esteli. That's nice. That's a nice temperature. That's why I wish I was up in the mountains. I mean, 22 here is very comfortable. Not a problem at all. This is definitely that time where just going outside, you're like, no, this is, you don't even notice going in and out of the house. It's all so comfy. So I like it a lot. And my little dog, who's right here sleeping, now, I had my door open most of the day. He just left. He just slept out and often asleep in the sun, which I find a little bit surprising. Like, the sun does get warm, for sure. You know, I'm gonna say something very funny. For anyone who's interested in moving to Nicaragua and doesn't have the opportunity to do so soon, in late 2014, I was playing... Wait, so let's back up. Right around when I first got married, maybe even before I was married. I bet before I was married. Oh, I'm going to look it up. Wait, hold on that story. I'll do my best to come up with real dates. That's my Boston Terrier outside, upset that people are leaving, and he just realized that all the cats are outside. So now he's pissed off. So in 2001, so my wife and I were just starting dating. She got me, so this is probably for my birthday, 2002, Tropico. And I played through the game and absolutely loved it long ago. And then Tropico 2 was garbage and no one played it. Tropico 3 came out and I didn't play. I took years and years off of gaming. But then I had a little bit of time a number of years later. And Tropico 3 only came out in 2009 and I was playing it by maybe 2014, so about 5 years old, which is not bad at all. That dog is outside this wall, just so you know. This concrete wall. And... so it wasn't that old, and I got Tropico 3, which is you play a Banana Republic leader in the Caribbean and like build the country, right, and manage the country. It's like Sim City, but in the tropics. And was playing that and really liked 3, and then Tropico 4 came out more or less at the right time. I gotta figure out when these all came out. So I was playing Tropico 3 before we moved, and while we were living in Spain, I started playing Tropico 4. I guess it was 2 years newer, so it was already out. So I probably got it on a deal. Played Tropico 4 and played it all the time that we were living in Spain. And beat the game. Absolutely loved it. And it was so about Nicaragua that when we moved here, it's like... even now, the radio will play, and I'll just hear like background music, and I'll be like, I'm in Tropico. I forget that I'm in Tropico. It's so funny. So if you need a little piece of Nicaragua, you need a little inspiration for coming to the region, go play. I don't recommend Tropico 1 or 2. They're too old. 2 is weird. 3 and 4 are excellent. 4 is basically just 3 upgraded. And Dale just said, I loved Tropico. 4 is my favorite so far. I stick to the old games that are cheap. I'm the same. 4 was amazing. I have 5, and I've started playing it, but someday I'll get through it. 6 is out, and 7 has been announced. But go back and check out 3 or 4, whatever you can find cheap. GOG just had a sale on them recently. They were super cheap. And they're really well-made games, and they're fun. Diego says, I thought for a minute that was really hoot. Then I realized it's Fahrenheit. Oh, really hot. Then I realized it's Fahrenheit. How much is 68 degrees in Celsius? I don't know. Let's find out. 20 degrees. So it's, it's cool, but it's not really chilly. Just a reminder, we're only going for another 10 or 15 minutes. We're doing a short one this week because we really have to, unfortunately. That dog is going crazy. Those poor cats out there. He's just harassing the little cats. I've got the other two dogs in here. So the big one is on alert. She's like, what's going on out there? The little one's just sleeping through it. He's like, whatever. That dog's crazy. It doesn't matter. Dale says, I have to get a table desk so I can get back to my games. That's top of the list these next few days. Very nice. For those who are gamers, if you haven't seen, actually I'm going to see if I can bring this up. We can give some free advertising here on the show. Oh yeah, there it is. Coming in 2026. That's right. Brand new Steam controller, Steam machine, and Steam VR system. They announced these yesterday. We're looking pretty serious. So we've been using Steam controllers for years, and they are so good. We were so sad when the old ones discontinued, so that they have a new one. We're very excited about it. Like, my kids are like, oh, heck yeah, we're getting that. And Steam Machine, which is a full Steam gaming console. It's basically the Steam Deck without a screen, controllers separate, 6 times the power of the Steam Deck. I'm really hoping that we can use that as our gaming machine. It looks fantastic. Like, it's really cute and small, good power, automatically plays the game, feels like a game console, which is exactly what we want. Hooks up to multiple types of controllers, but importantly uses the ones that we want, which is the Steam controllers. Looks neat. It's got different fronts. I like the wood one. It'll come up right there. Gorgeous. Like, that's perfect. That's what I want. So we're talking about, we've been needing to get a video game console or computer for it. So we're thinking about getting that because it's full PC gaming right from stream. Luke says, booked a 2022 Tacoma for 3 weeks through Turo for $1,400. You could almost buy one for that. Edwin says, hey, Scott, Edwin is in the building one more Thursday. Edwin, you're just getting here. We mentioned to everyone every 15 minutes or so, we're just doing a very short 2-hour live stream this week because I have to work a whole bunch. So very sorry to you guys who are just jumping in. We're only going to be here for another 10 minutes or so. But thanks for stopping in, and next week we'll do a long one. I'm going to try really hard to do a long one next week, and then Thanksgiving, taking the day off, because it is also my daughter's birthday. Graduate Gemologist says, P.S. On my way back from Nicaragua, I picked up a 6-pack of Tonya beer in Fort Lauderdale at ABC's. Que rico. Awesome. Tusk is here. Hey, Scott. Good to see you. Hey, Tusk. Glad that you are with us and had a good week. Dale says, strictly PC gamer, mouse and keyboard for the win. I'm strictly a PC gamer, but we use controllers. So I'm all about PC gaming. I do not own any consoles. Well, I guess my kids have some old Nintendo stuff, but we only buy PC gaming stuff. Use GOG first, Steam second, Epic once in a while. And we have a gaming room, but our gaming PC took a hit and died. So we got to replace it. And getting PC gaming with a console-like experience is exactly what we want. We do have we have 2 Steam Decks. We have the original my kids have, and my wife has the newer one. And I'm waiting for another generation before I get one. But we love them. They're awesome. And so really interested in that. I think it'll be a good unit. I do like keyboard and mouse. I come from that background. And definitely if I'm playing Tropico or something like that, yeah, keyboard and mouse. But my kids and I play a lot of like Nancy Drew and a lot of point and click adventure games. Having a controller, kicking back on the couch, being able to like snuggle the dog, have a blanket, get like super comfy. It's almost like a pajama party, right? You just kind of pile in. We get chips or order a pizza. This is what my daughters and I do. They're 14 and 16. We will, several nights a week, I'll be like, what are we doing tonight? They'll be like, oh, yeah, we're going to play a game. So right now we're playing through Rain World. And together, it's multiplayer. And we'll get the dogs and blankets. We'll turn on the air conditioning. It's a small room. It's the same size as my office. It's right next door. Well, there's a bathroom in between, but it's right there. We got 2 couches. So like my one daughter will sit directly next to me, and the couches are only maybe this far apart from each other. And one is like this, one's like this. Okay, TV's here. And So my 14-year-old will sit on the couch, and she'll get the big dog that's right there right now, and then my 16-year-old and I will get on a kind of a dual recliner. I guess it's a love seat recliner, and our Boston Terrier, who's being so loud outside, will hop up in between us, and then the little baby dog will get on the floor. And we have a table behind us that's just loaded with snacks. We actually have the game room snacks separate from the house snacks, and we just load it up, and that's like our comfy thing. And we start at like midnight and go to like 3 a.m. Now, a lot of times I have my laptop in there and I work, but sometimes we're gaming, sometimes we're watching TV. But that's like our thing. We get our time, so it's like a pajama party several nights a week. Diego says, I was about to ask you about the Steam machine. Yeah, I'm very excited that it just came out. He says, let's go Linux gaming. Yeah, I've been a Linux gamer for a long time. Like a long, long time. Break up the Windows monopoly, for sure. Janet says, that wood front on the Steam thing looks like the 1960s and 70s to me. Right? I love it. Like, I mean, that's what looks good to me, because that was my childhood. And Jan says, yeah, I just got here from my class. I can go back and listen to what I missed. Sadly, we have a lot of people on, and I got to cut it short this week. It sucks because we're just ramping up, and this is kind of our hot time, but I've got to work, unfortunately. Any can't-miss restaurants in Leon? So we're not the restaurant city. You're not going to be like, oh, my gosh, I'm so glad I went to this place, right? Which is sad because I'm a restaurant guy. In the city, you got to hit NL Vivero, not the one at the baseball stadium, the original, the one that's actually Vivero. Just the setting is amazing. Coca-Cola, vegan, quite good. I've heard really good things about Basilica. It's very steaky, so I don't eat there, but definitely try that out. So many have closed recently, and so many are just copies. Cucaracha, if you really want to try bean soup. Its real name is Bar Mississippi, but everyone calls it La Cucaracha. Their bean soup is over 50 years old, and we don't mean the recipe. Like, it's an event. I need to film it. I can't believe I haven't filmed it yet. I know that Janet has been filmed at it. Not with me. I've seen her on other channels eating at Cucaracha, but I need to get out there and actually have people film me eating the 50-year-old beans. No, Dale, you can't go swimming at Coca-Cola. You only guests of the hotel are allowed in the water. We've asked many times because the kids want to go swimming there. They used to. And Enrique is like, nope, only the people at the hotel. There was a great Italian restaurant out on the bypass. It's gone. They did road construction and it didn't make it. El Sesteo on the square. Food is adequate. Service is good. But you're really going to sit on the square. That's special. So that's an important one. Both that and NL Vivero are very much a venue-based place. Most of the more better known places in town are not actually good, and I would avoid them, or not go out of my way to go to them. Honestly, those feel like the highlights. There's plenty of restaurants that are okay, right? Our Chinese restaurant downtown is pretty good. Would I be like, it's a must-eat at? No, not by any stretch. But if you're looking for some Chinese in town, are you going to be happy with dinner? Yes. Okay. Same with Barbaro, right? Is it a destination to eat? No. Is it good food? Yeah, it's generally good. Gecko's was really good. They're going through a kitchen turnover, so everyone's like, no. Desi Unaso just got bought out. Everyone went from a must-eat to a no. The Italian place just closed. Summer is a little bit different, but it's a chain, and this is not even in the first four. Twins maybe in Sutiava, just because again the setting, the steakhouse in the barrio is unique. La Pescadito in Sutiava, maybe just because famous fish place, kind of like Cucaracha with their beans. You know, street food at La Merced is a food experience. So that maybe. I've heard La Esquina is good, but nothing special. La Perla I've been to, good, but not special. El Convento is pretty good. The venue is absolutely, both La Perla and Convento are absolutely gorgeous, and food is good. But both are pricey and not like, whoa, knock my socks off. It's a rough town for food, it really is. Luke says, your short timing was impeccable. I have tarea for my clase de español. Adio, y'all. Edwin says, I used my dad's PC to play Five Nights at Freddy's fan games from 2020 to 2024, and I made content with it. Very nice. My daughters love Five Nights at Freddy. Tusk says, you played Tropico. I love Tropico 3 as a teen. You got to play Tropico 4. Everything you liked about 3, much better. It's just like polished and twice as long, but it feels like the same game. Just, it feels like 3 was practice for 4. So good. Edwin says, Christina, new McDonald's restaurant is being built next to the new baseball stadium. Nobody cares about McDonald's. Like, that is the strongest statement as to how bad the food is in Leon, that McDonald's is worth being mentioned. Like, that's horrendous. And the McDonald's here is not on point at all. Like, it's okay, right? And I know it's hard. I'm not knocking them for not being able to keep up with other locations, but the McDonald's here is not on par with McDonald's in even Guatemala. Diego says, I'm looking into one, but I can't play in my Mac, and having another computer doesn't make sense to me, and it plays almost all the Steam games. Diego says, Edwin, there's another McDonald's near L7 Sewer in Leon. No, there's just the one downtown at the cathedral, which is neat because it's by the cathedral, and then there's the modern one in Chinandega, and then the baseball stadium. Edwin says, in Leon City is expected to be the 11th McDonald's restaurant, as 7 Sewer, one in Managua just opened today. Oh, I see. So that's number 10, and 2 more are being made. Christy, yeah. Edwin, I can't possibly tell you how much, especially Americans, are unimpressed by it actually makes places look bad that they have McDonald's. It is not an impressive thing. It's something that is seen as shame by most. There's some people who go to them like, I just have to eat the same food, and so I go to this place hoping it's the same food. That's kind of their thing. But it does not reflect positively on environments to have one. Just like Starbucks. Like, we know the places are going to have them. We're not like, oh, you suck, you have a Starbucks. Obviously, because America's full of them too. But we're ashamed that we have them, right? Like, that's kind of... Edwin says, we got 2 new Carl's Jr. restaurants opening, Esteli, Plaza Naciones Unidas in Managua, McDonald's 7 Sewer, and Carl's Jr. Matagalpa. Dale says, oh, damn. Edwin says, Carl's Jr. Matagalpa will be located at brand new Plaza Tramontana, located near Jinotega Highway, which is in construction, and 2 new stores will be open. I wish that Nicaragua was getting more restaurants people wanted to eat at and less sad, overpriced American copies chains. Like, the worst of America coming here. Christy says, considering non-GMO laws, I'm surprised McDonald's exists at all. So McDonald's is the largest restaurant group in the world. They deal with non-GMO stuff everywhere in the world, so they just take advantage of lax U.S. laws, but it's just like their French fries have meat in them in the U.S., but not in the U.K., for example. Dale says, yeah, but I saw people coming out of the McDonald's on the square with ice cream cones, so their ice cream machines seem to work. You're right, Dale. They actually offer the ice cream here, but it's not the same ice cream. It doesn't taste very good. So in America, their ice cream is excellent, but never available. It's like a thing. There's actually a lawsuit that they're not allowed in some places to say they offer ice cream because it turns out that it's a scam. Here is one of those places where they would get caught in a scam, I think. And so they actually offer ice cream, but they don't offer the ice cream that we like in the U.S. It's a very pales in comparison experience. Speaking of, I have an ice cream machine and need to go make ice cream tonight. Jan says, I've never eaten more than an ice cream cone at this McDonald's, and that was probably just after they opened. I've had the French fries. They don't have anything good on their menu. It's such a limited menu. The things that we miss aren't available. So it's like... Edwin says, If we vary, Scott, next to Tijuan Tepe Rotunda Plaza China Zin opened in mid-October. Diego says, I like McDonald's chicken. McDonald's chicken is not bad, from what I remember. It's been a very, very long time since I had it. So this is sad, Diego. When I was a kid, their chicken nuggets were amazing. And by the time I was a late teenager, they sucked. And now you can only get the sucky ones, the dry, tasteless ones. When I was a kid, they were so good. I miss McDonald's chicken nuggets from my childhood. It's one of the foods that I miss as a vegetarian, and one of the things that makes being a vegetarian the easiest is that McDonald's completely refuses to offer my childhood chicken nuggets anymore. So I don't miss with the ones that they actually have because they have no taste. But their chicken sandwich, back when I was still able to eat it 30 years ago, was a very good sandwich. That is true. The thing that I miss now is their fish sandwich, which they don't offer here. Larry says, you missed my message about Nkantiki for Thanksgiving. 4 p.m. on the 27th, everything in Thanksgiving dinner. I can't do it, Larry, because it is my daughter's birthday, so we're not celebrating Thanksgiving anywhere, just doing my daughter's birthday, because she's actually born on Thanksgiving. So it is actually her birthday, and it's Thanksgiving, and the day she was born was actually Thanksgiving. Chrissy says, Diego, ew, pink goo. Oh, the McDonald's chicken. Yeah. Edwin says, did you see Tigo AWS collab? No. Edwin, what is that? I assume you mean Amazon Web Services, but what the heck is Tigo doing with them? Brian says the Polish restaurant in Las Piñatas is great. Yeah, if you're going out to Las Piñatas, we actually say there's better food in Las Piñatas than there is in León. There's the Polish restaurant, the Italian restaurant, although they've basically converted to a pizza restaurant just in the last 2 weeks, which is very sad. They had homemade pasta, was so good. And then like Desperados was really good, but we closed. But we did have the best steakhouse in town, the best Italian restaurant in town, the only Polish restaurant in town, some of the best like street food in town, all was in Las Piñatas. So it's... so I'm looking at Tigo's AWS page, but what the heck does it do? Did Edwin respond? No. So Edwin, I'm just looking, they've got a page, but other than they are a reseller or an advertiser for them, is there anything actually of value? Because Tigo is not exactly a business platform, if you know what I mean. So offering like a data center partner for consumer, the slowest non-business consumer network is kind of okay, but still need to do business. Tigo is the last thing you'd want as a name on business. We tried to use Tigo. 7 years ago, it was just a scam. They couldn't even hook up their Wi-Fi, and it was a Wi-Fi service. It was in Matagalpa. They couldn't make it work. They tried to charge us without having hooked it up. Like they weren't even a legit company. It was completely awful. Diego says Nancy's Chicken is good. I don't know that place. Brian says I got fingerprinted on my way out of Managua Airport. That was a bit of a surprise. Pretty much everyone who doesn't have facial recognition these days does fingerprinting. I don't know where I don't get fingerprinted, other than where I get facially recognized. Can you deny biometric collection? No, absolutely not. Nowhere in the world. I don't think there's anywhere you can deny biometric. Graduate says, yes, once I was fingerprinted digital, but all of the times I was not fingerprinted. What's up with that? Well, once you're fingerprinted, they may not need it, right? A lot of places have moved to facial. Yes, it is somewhat random. They don't do it to absolutely everyone. Nancy's chicken, Edwin says. Oh, Narcy's chicken. Oh, I don't know Narcy's chicken, but that makes more sense. I never hear the name. Is that like Managua? I'm looking. Pollo Narcis. Oh, I've seen that place. Obviously, I don't eat there. That's what they're talking about. Now, definitely during international transfers, if you get selected for fingerprinting or whatever, you do not get to opt out of it. There's also really no value to opting out of it because everybody has your biometrics all the time. So if they're just giving you the courtesy of telling you, right? They can collect so much from so many different sources. What's nice is the places that are really public about it, like Buenos Aires at Easy E, that's actually the name of their airport. You go through and smile at the camera and you're good. You just wave through everything else the rest of the time you're at the airport. It is so nice. You never need to take your passport out again or anything like that. And of course, we're all biometrically scanned all the time. That's what humans do to each other. It may not be digital, but you're getting captured in that way, and every CCTV camera, your computer, like everything's doing it all the time. So Edwin says, to be honest, Scott, I didn't taste it yet. I'm more eating Tip Top chicken, especially hot and ready when they're juicy. Yeah, Tip Tops. From people I know, Tip Top is way better than McDonald's. But McDonald's sandwiches are not bad. Like the McDonald's chicken sandwich, if they're actually doing it like the one that they used to have in the US 30 years ago, is a decent sandwich. It's also nothing special compared to Tip Top. So it's like, you know, kinda whatever. For those who haven't noticed, the U.S. announced yesterday or 2 days ago that the Real ID is now available optionally digitally, but only to Apple users. So if you're an Apple user and you're traveling, it's only your Real ID, which is not huge, not a big thing, but it is the closest thing to a non-passport national ID that you have in the US. So to the rest of the world, Real ID is almost America's cedula. So they announced finally that the US is starting to catch up with the rest of the world with having both something akin to a cedula and a digital version of it, and it just happened. So yeah, it's a good 1 to 2 decades behind, but it is happening and starting to close the digital divide a little bit. Vince is here. Hello, Scott. Jay Chica says, just caught up at work. Hope this live is saved so I can watch it again later. All of the lives are saved. You can definitely see it. It takes like maybe an hour, I think, before you're able to see it. It's not too long, but there is a delay. So don't be surprised if you can't see it immediately, because it does have to process it for a few things. But you'll be able to see it for sure. But yeah, we are wrapping up at this point. Sorry guys, we've got a good number of people on. I'm really thankful for everybody who's on tonight, and would be nice if we could spend more time on, but I really need to work hard and get caught up, and I've got work messaging me in the background about stuff, so I really appreciate everybody. Remember, next week we're going to try to do a long one. We are going to skip Thanksgiving for the live stream. We're not going to skip Thanksgiving, obviously. And that's about it. I don't think there's too much else to tell you. Edwin says, at least in Nicaragua, we have Jordan and Nike branded shirts and tennis shoes. We say tennis is here in Spanish, yes. We do say tennis shoes in parts of the U.S., just not parts that I'm from. But like Texas says tennis shoes. So and I'm used to it here, obviously, but the southern U.S. says tennis shoes. They get it from Spanish. I assume it's a form of Spanglish, probably in the U.S. All right, everyone, have a good night. And yes, there will be a recording of the show. So thanks so much for joining me. Like and subscribe. Remember to hit that on the show and go watch. I know we're ending early, but there's 5,000 episodes to go watch. There has to be one you haven't seen yet. Go watch one or two of those. Give it a thumbs up. Let it run in the background. By the way, I've heard from very reliable sources that my voice on my videos is perfect for falling asleep to. So putting on one of my shows as you're drifting off at night gives a really good way to reduce stress and fall asleep in a more natural way. So consider that. Brian says, do they sell Victoria Classic t-shirts? I couldn't find it anywhere. I have never seen one. I believe the answer is no. I've seen Tonya gear rarely, but Victoria never, and I would like one because I drink Victoria, so that would be nicer than a Tonya one, and I have not managed to find one. So I'm with you. It would be nice. Anyway, have a good night, everybody. I will see all of you.